Hey everybody, welcome back to Recordology. Okay, I'm excited and nervous for today's show because I really want it to work and the show will be lame if it doesn't. So we are going to have to persist until we get some level of success here. So recently, within the last year, I came into possession. My wife bought me a couple of 16-inch AFRN transcript discs. And no normal record player is going to handle a 16-inch record. I'm going to show you just how big they are here in a minute. So I'm thinking to myself, what can we do to play these? We did rig up something when we first reviewed them that I was able to use the Crosley, that kind of clamshell thing that looks like a Soundburger because the arm, rotates off the side. And we were able to play a little bit.
For the fellas at the VA hospital, Topeka, Kansas. It's Louis Armstrong and the boys to tell us about Joseph and his buddies.
Awesome. But I want, to modify or create something that will really allow us to listen to the entirety of this 16-inch World War II era record. I have two of them, actually. Keep looking over there because that's where they are. And what I want to, I don't intend on playing these a lot, probably only once, but I want to digitize them. I want to get that audio off of there. They are on a vinyl material. They're not going to last forever. I'm going to do my best to make sure they do last as long as possible. But today's show is all about creating or modifying what I have available to me. And this will be interesting to you because it's going to involve some hacking apart record players and stuff to modify some sort of Franken-Deck that will play, these 16-inch records. I don't know how we're going to do it. We're going to figure it out. Anyway, you are not going to want to miss this. Welcome to Recordology. Okay, let's start by creating some sense of scale and perspective. Just for the sake of level setting on how big these records are, that is a 7-inch record. This is a 12-inch record, okay? This is the size, well, there's 10-inch in between, but these are basically the primary sizes that you and I are going to be listening to on a day-to-day basis. However, if you get curious about radio transcription discs, you'll be dealing with these massive, yes, I'm holding it wrong, 16-inch records. Look how much bigger that is than the 12-inch. Let's put that right there. And then I'm not going to quite let it touch, but you can see it is significantly larger. I mean, it is a lot larger than just a standard 12-inch record. And, the record players themselves are designed to handle up to a 12-inch record unless you have thousands to spend on a transcription disc player, of which I do not, nor do I ever anticipate having or finding an incredible deal at a thrift store or Craigslist or anything like that. But it shouldn't be too hard to find a solution, and I'm pretty confident we're going to be able to do this. Why? The why is because this material is very precious that's on here. As you can see, it says Harry James. This is the Purple Heart album. This is an AFRN program transcription disc. This is literally what radio stations would play the audio off of that you would hear over the air. This was the source media. This is the source material. But the reason why I think that this is not going to be too hard of a project for us is this. These records, which I stated before are vinyl, are actually 33 RPM records, which may surprise you, but 33 RPM and vinyl for that matter was already a standard for radio broadcasting years before it became commonplace for the consumer. So the good news is they are backwards compatible in a way. So we have the ability to spin these at 33 RPM, and that's readily accessible to us. It's not like 16 RPM. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing unattainable. So that's good. And we can use a micro groove stylus in this. It's somewhere in between a micro groove and a wide groove stylus, but we're going to go for a micro groove stylus. But if you can spin it and you can reach it with a stylus and an arm, then you should be able to play it. So we're just going to give it a go and see what we can come up with. I was thinking for the last several months as I've been putting this idea together slowly in my head, what best to cannibalize in order to create this Frankenstein record deck. this transcription record player, because the big issue obviously is the distance from the spindle to the tone arm, and that's, oops, I guess it would help if you could see what I was doing. That's where we run into the issue, because as it is right now, if I take this record, you'll see that it's just way too massive. I mean, that's literally where it would need to be. So it's just not happening as is. However, I believe it can be done. These two record players, this is the Five Below record player that, you know, had a good review, but has been downhill since then. This is the Victrola V1, which we don't need to go into that again. It's just say it had two very rough shows. But there's still value in here, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. And I thought to myself, these are record players I wouldn't in good conscience be able to sell, nor would I be able to give in good conscience, unless somebody was just buying them for parts. And, you know, trying to find somebody who wants to buy an intact record player is hard enough, let alone somebody that wants to buy one for parts. So I toyed around with the idea of just ripping the tone arm off of a unit like this and just using it for its platter, which is just, you know, this is a pretty heavy duty platter. You know, it's got a full size platter, and, you know, I think it would do good at spinning 33 RPMs. And that's a good thing. And then I could take the tone arm from something like the Crosley Revolution, kind of a Soundburger type design, because it can rotate over. That's kind of how we did the test before. Unfortunately, it just wasn't, the arm couldn't reach all the way over. So we're going to have to get a little bit more inventive. Then I thought, well, the LP7 has just about enough room, and it did, but it was about, you know, a centimeter too short. There was just not quite enough clearance. That tone arm lift is dragging on it now. It's okay. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Okay, I need to rethink this. And I don't want to take that apart because there's a lot of value in that turntable. Still a great turntable. So I've settled on this. This is my plan, and I'm sticking to it for now. I also wanted the ability to put a nice magnetic cartridge on there to play the record. I didn't want to be stuck with the ceramic. So what we're going to do is this. I am going to take this V1 apart, and we are going to attempt to relocate this tone arm housing back to this corner. I measured it, we only need about 1 more inch than we currently have. I think we got at least 2.5 inches of play. And I looked at some internal drawings. I think it can be done. So what we're going to do is flip it over, and we are literally just going to take it apart from the bottom and see if this can be removed. Now, in a perfect world, there'll be enough slack on the wiring that all we have to do is reattach it back here, possibly drill some holes. In a not so ideal world, you know, we may have to get a little bit more creative. Let's just start with that. But to begin with, let's take it apart. So because this is the dust cover, there's no way we can just flip it over without having the weight rest on this tone arm assembly, which we're trying to save. So what we're going to do is this. It's not going to be perfect, but I took the platter off, and I'm going to use a bowl and just flip it over like this, and hopefully that will give us enough leverage to get in there and do what we need to do. I just need it to lay relatively flat for now. I may have to kind of, okay, something like that. We're getting real creative here. So now all I need to do is take my screwdriver and start working on these screws. Okay, after removing 400 screws from the bottom of this thing, I think we're ready to open it up. Okay, I don't know what the holdup is, but I think it was glue. Okay. Glue we can deal with. I don't intend to do another full review of what's inside this, although it is kind of interesting. I'm pretty sure we didn't do this during the initial review. So this is weird. A couple points of interest while we're in here. In case you ever wondered what a Bluetooth antenna looked like, there's 2 of them here on this board. Kind of in the bottom there, that zigzag, kind of blocky zigzag, that's one of them. And then the top right-hand corner under that ribbon cable in the shadow there, that is another. This transmits and receives Bluetooth, which is cool. I think that's a good thing. Those of you who are experts in electronics or have a passing knowledge that will far exceed mine, tell me why there is a capacitor that is connected between the main full-range speaker and the tweeter. I have no idea. But the good news is I think that we have successfully loosened or removed the tone arm. I felt it kind of go chunk down there when I was unscrewing this. My thought initially was I'd have to remove this whole plate, but that may not be the case. So let's flip it around and look at the other side. Okay. So it did indeed come all the way out by loosening 3 screws under there. This is plastic. And as you can see right there, you know, no surprise, the plinth is just a fiberboard MDF kind of material there. And there's even some play in the wiring. There's one wire braid right there, which may even have some other slack on the other side. I saw some of those were bundled together. By the way, there's the, let me zoom in there. There is the anti-skate adjustment. If you ever wondered what those look like sometimes, this one just uses a spring, which can work just fine. And then this will include a micro switch so that when you rotate the tone arm over the platter surface, it knows to spin. But the question is now, how hard is this going to be to move? Remember, we need to just kind of move it back a little bit, kind of back to about there, and we might be in business. So what I'm going to do next actually is flip this over, and I'm going to see how much play we have in that wire braid. It doesn't look like there's any more. I mean, there is a little bit of play in there, so it's not completely taut, but we are going to be restricted by how much is available there. So this is flush down here. No, it's not flush. Never mind. I was going to say this is flush. So this needs to protrude a little bit into the plinth. As you can see there, this center, the center bit right here. So what we might be able to do, just for the sake of, you know, what we're doing today, is snap off these posts and kind of glue it in position in the back there. And I know that's not the fanciest thing, but again, we're just trying to make a functional thing, not necessarily a pretty thing. So I think what I'm going to do is clip off these posts and see if we have enough slack as is to move that back. And then I'm going to try and position that record to see if that gives us, you know, the clearance that we need. Okay, so this is something you don't see very often. I was thinking about repositioning one or two of these in the receptacles that exist, but it's just not going to get it far enough away. So I'm just literally going to clip them off. I wish it was completely flush, because that would be ideal, but that's not the case. I don't want to clip off this grounding wire. I will say, you know, handling this tone arm kind of reinstates how cheap it really is. I mean, this is plastic that is just super, super cheap. Okay, now that we're not, you know, bound by those posts to align it, we can sort of slide it around. The question is, can we slide it far enough away, which would be over here, that we have clearance? Also, the tone arm has to be able to rotate. So this piece right here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. So this piece, when you rotate, the tone arm rotates as well. So not only do we have to make room for this, but we have to make room for everywhere that this is going to travel as the tone arm rotates. So that is, again, a little tricky, but like right there, I can pretty much move it anywhere. So what I need to do now is find out if that is enough clearance. I'm going to have to snap this off. In fact, I'm just going to do that now because I can already tell that that is coming for us. Fairly soft plastic. Wow, that launched across the room. Okay. Interesting. So it's doing what my LP7 did, and that is it's hanging up on the tone arm lift. So can we get under the lift? Yes, we can. Ho, ho, ho. See? That wasn't actually as hard as I thought it might be. It's a close call, but it fits. I mean, it uses every millimeter available to us, but if I can get it in that position, then we should be able to go to town. The next question is, will the tone arm be able to reach far enough across? Because a transcription turntable is going to have a long tone arm. It's going to have, you know, this is just a standard length tone arm, so it's not, you know, not designed to reach this far across a record. However, I think for our purposes, this will probably do fine. Obviously, you want that tone arm to be as neutral as possible, but considering where the audible information is on this record, I think we could probably approximate a cartridge to a decent position that it could get that audio. Keeping in mind, this is all mono anyway. I thought before I attach it back to the plinth that I better put the cartridge on because I don't want to bust off whatever I use to hold it firm. And as far as the cartridge go, I decided just to go with the VMN 190 cartridge that this came with. The cantilever on the original one broke, so I'm using the backup one that they sent because it's the only scenario that I could see myself ever using this cartridge for. As has been mentioned on other YouTube channels, I'm trying to choose my words fairly carefully, this cartridge bears a striking resemblance to a Wish.com cartridge. And you can't replace the stylus. I mean, it is a one and done, all in one system. The cartridge is the stylus, is the cartridge. So, but it should work. I mean, spec wise, it should be fine. It's rated for 1,000 hours. But I do remember now that we had this little issue back here where I snapped off the right channel wire. So that being said, you know what that means, ladies and gentlemen. That means it's time for soldering. So let me get set up for that. So I need to solder the red one on, but I got the rest connected. No, I don't. I thought I did. Okay, we got one here that's still a Renegade. The bottom two are just grounds. And as you can see, I think they're just terminated to the screw on the bottom here. So I probably just ground it out. Little Allen wrench here. I want to make sure that I've got enough room with these guys kind of pulled out of the way that I can access the back of this guy. Okay, you know what? Instead of glue, I just went with zip ties. Why not? Because it'll hold it firm. It'll give me a little bit of wiggle room in case we need to make adjustments. So, no, it's not a precision device, okay? But for this type of a project, I think it'll serve its purpose well. I was pretty satisfied with that idea, my friends. Like 4 or 5 strapped around, pulled as tight as I could. I ran across some interesting copy on this turntable system, marketing copy. Victrola says that this is the most beautiful, something I'm paraphrasing, but it's very close to this, the most beautiful looking and most beautiful sounding stereo record player system ever made. So that's interesting. Okay, now we need to apply 2 grams of downforce. Okay, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4-ish. That should be just about perfect. So this zip tie right here isn't giving us the clearance we need. I made several of these zip tie brackets to go around and then go through this to secure it down, which I was able to do with moderate success, but not complete success. Long story short, in so doing, I would lose the fluid play in the pivot itself. So I'm just going to let it be loose. This position is normal, and then for transcriptions, I can just slide it over there. From, my experimenting so far, I don't think it will impact it. Okay, moment of truth. Here we go. Okay, first things first, I believe it's 45 RPMs. Let me fix that. All right, got it at 33. I'm just going to drop it a little bit over here.
But he didn't come home. He was conked on the dome by his... Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. From the world-famous Hollywood Palladium, it's music by the Sunrise Serenader, Frankie Carl and his orchestra, broadcasting to servicemen and women all over the world. So here, from the heart of the film capital, is another One Night Stand.
So yeah, I mean, it's clunky. It's not that fancy. Hopefully it was interesting, but it's functional. I can do something that I couldn't do this morning, and that is play a 16-inch, 33 RPM record. And I could not afford a transcription record player, but I had this available, was able to modify it. It was actually very simple. At the end of the day, all we did was detach this and slide it over. And thankfully there was, some slack in the wiring. We also had to do a little soldering there, but no big deal. So it sounds good. I mean, these are old records. These are lo-fi records, right? These are not high fidelity records that would break into the consumer market, 10 years after this. but it's going to work for what I need it to do. And what I am going to do next, not as a part of this show because it would be extremely boring to watch, but I'm going to take this guy. This is my little sound card, USB sound card, plug this into my laptop, and then take the audio from there into here and record into Audacity. So from there, if there's any minor pitch adjustments that need to be made or any cleanup or just editing and storage, it'll be all in the digital domain at that point. It wouldn't have been possible without the Victrola V1, who comes in at the last minute for a surprising home run, you guys. There you go. Don't discount it just yet, maybe. That being said, I'll probably never review any more Victrola on this show, not because of my choosing, but I just don't see that happening. But hopefully it was an interesting show. Okay, everybody. So I played with it for a couple more hours after we were done filming, and here's my advice to you. I ran into a couple of issues. First of all, I started having some tracking issues where it kept, skipping and repeating the same loop until I nudged it or moved the stylus to the next groove. And I think that was more of an issue of anti-skate. It needed more anti-skate applied the closer it got to the inside edge. So I think what was happening is the arm is just too short. So the cartridge alignment got worse the closer it got to the label as well. So I think you really need a longer tone arm. So I would add that it was only like sort of acceptable for the first half of the record. And then you would need to, in my setup, you would need to realign the cartridge and apply anti-skate. It would just be, and for me, it wouldn't be that big of an issue because I'm just going to use it once essentially to digitize that audio and be done with it probably. But there's probably better ways to do it. So I know there's better ways to do it. In fact, in the future, maybe we'll do a show about that. But that's kind of where I got with it. It did work. We got to hear it, which was cool. And it was a fun experiment as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Somebody recently told me that they joined TikTok just so they could subscribe to the Recordology TikTok channel. And I would invite you to do the same as well. It's free and we post all sorts of exclusive content over there that never even sees the light of day over here. And, it's still growing. I'm less than 400 subs. Once I get above 1,000, I'll be able to live stream and be able to do some cool stuff with that. So give it a shot. It's I was totally not a TikTok person at all. I still need to go to my kids for, tips and tricks on that. But I got used to it to a degree. I'm having more fun with it than I thought. I thought it was just all junk, but there's actually a lot of vintage audio and record player stuff on there. It's a lot of fun. So come join us over there. Link in the description below. Think about joining our members only program. Link down below as well. But that's going to do it for now, guys. Happy record hunting, and we'll see you next time.